Hey, everybody. Welcome to our webinar series. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Carol Amos. I do partner marketing at Bill.com, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our Thought Leadership webinar series. This webinar is entitled 4 Essential Technologies That Every Nonprofit Finance Department Should Be Using in 2021. So if this is what you want to hear about, you are in the right place. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A panel that you'll see to the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. Looks like we've got about half of everybody who registered signed in. That's pretty good, so let's go ahead and get started. I would like to introduce our presenter today, Jacqueline Tissot. Jacqueline's the founder and CMO of JMT. CEO, sorry, I'm in marketing. She's the chief executive officer of JMT Consulting Group. She's a frequent speaker on financial management and cloud technology and is regularly called upon for her expertise by the media and as a conference speaker. Several years ago, JMT migrated most of its internal systems to the cloud, and after experiencing the benefits of these systems, Jackie has been a leading proponent of cloud systems for nonprofits ever since. Prior to founding JMT Consulting Group, she was CFO and comptroller for a number of nonprofit organizations. She's assisted nonprofit organizations with all financial aspects of their business, from accounting services and technology to high-level management and board consulting. Jackie continues to serve on a number of nonprofit boards and committees in support of their efforts to make a difference in the world. And Jackie, I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Carol. Well, hello, everybody. I am really super excited to be here today and talk to you about technology. I am an accountant by background, but I am one of those geeky accountants that loves technology. So I'm actually going to share a little bit about the vision for finance and operations and how that's continuing to evolve. Then I'm going to talk about the essential technologies, and then I thought it would be really good to touch on the resources necessary when you think about looking forward in utilizing any of these technologies. So I love this quote from Peter Drucker. I have, read it back in 1999 in one of his wonderful books, and it's still relevant today. And, I hear this from clients even today. The good news is that it is getting better. CFOs are knowing more and more and getting visibility to what's going on. And technology is really supporting that. So I'm going to talk about, what those technologies are and how they help. But I'm going to start first with a little, history lesson, if you will. So, when we think about accounting, and I certainly can, remember this and resonates with me, as I've been working in accounting for over 30 years, it was mostly about debits and credits. It was about booking journal entries, and it was more rear view mirror focused. We were looking at activity of the past 30 or 60 or 90 days even by the time we got our books closed. And, it was just a lot of times the data was so old that decision-making wasn't really a timely event. And I know a lot of systems are still operating within this environment, in positions where we have our accounting systems and we're working on more legacy data systems, and you might have a hard close and all of the work that goes in with a month-end close and that hard close and getting those financial statements out. And what I'm going to talk about and share is how financial management of today, the 21st century and forward, is actually changing and evolving. And it's no longer about those debits and credits, that transactional activity, but really about future focused. vision, and then how technology actually supports that. So what's happening today is CFOs are, forward-looking, and everyone sort of has the same key goals, really to streamline the processes, to help your teams be as productive as possible, doing work that's valuable versus manual or redundant. There's a lot of that's been happening but 2020 and COVID-19, of course, has raised the bar on that even more. The need for visibility to information, to be able to make decisions faster and better, has become an imperative, and that's been the case for the past 10 months in this constantly moving environment with different scenarios. So, when we're looking at it, we really are looking at the finance team as it's more vital than ever before. In many parts of an organization, it was viewed that finance was sort of that department over in the background, just keeping the numbers and the machine running forward. But today, it's so much more than that. Today, it really is about having the ability to adapt to this rapidly changing environment that we've been living through. And having that real-time collaboration for your teams, with the remote work as a result of COVID, it is in a new environment for the past 10 months, 12 months, that all organizations have really had to almost overnight in many cases. And systems were not set up for it. Systems were built for your team to come in and sit at their desk and get into your server and be able to do their work. And overnight that changed. And now you need to make payments and be able to do them remotely and get to the information and run reports and be able to do analysis on them. And all of that is the finance department of today. And technology today supports that. I read a very good article not too long ago that actually spoke about the fact that one of the outcomes of COVID-19 is that it has pushed some areas of usage of technology ahead years or more. And working exclusively with nonprofit organizations, I can personally attest to this for JMT. So now I'm going to talk about that technology and what we see as essential technologies that are available now, some of them in their infancy, and I'm going to talk about them, and others that have been around for the past 10 years, and how they're changing organizations. So the four that we're going to focus on here are cloud computing, artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, and again, cloud computing. And I have that up there twice. Is so important. It is the thing that is evolving so rapidly. There are so many solutions that are becoming available more and more every day. And everything is about transforming our systems, which we've been operating on, historical accountant here for 30 plus years, as a system of record, to really being a system of intelligence for the finance office, finance leadership, and for the organization as a whole. And so I have cloud computing up there twice because it is that important. So let's talk about cloud computing. So first thing I'd like to talk about is cloud computing has, as I said, been around for 10 years. It is evolving every single day. And it is, there are many, many solutions that are out there that are true cloud, multi-tenant cloud. And then there are solutions that are trying to get to cloud, and I call those partly cloudy. They are not bad, but you really want to understand how they're made and different than a true cloud software as a service application. Cloud computing, and I have been talking about for 10 years. I first started back in 2008, and I can remember doing speaking engagements and having finance leadership, CFOs, controllers, coming to me and saying to me, finance people will never put their information in the cloud. And I'm very happy to report that that is not only not the case, but that as a general rule, when anybody is looking for a finance solution, they're not even asking if it's in the cloud anymore. It is an assumption that an accounting solution and any other back office solution is actually going to be in the cloud. And the reasons for this are all of what's talked about on this slide. There is the security, which we know security and cyber threats. It's a number one hugely important thing. It has always been the case, and cybercrime is worse than ever before. And so the ability to have security of data is hugely important. There's also the disaster recovery. We only work with nonprofit organizations at JMT. Most organizations don't have, nor can they afford, the discovery, disaster recovery processes and policies and everything in place that they should, even though you can make the argument they can't afford not to have. The infrastructure, nonprofits were historically behind on technology, and for the past 10 years, I have repeatedly said that cloud computing is the great equalizer within the not-for-profit environment, especially because nonprofits with budgetary constraints often could not afford to have their technology kept current. Working virtually, we've all seen the benefit today in this past 10 years, especially of the benefit of working virtually, and the power to be able to do that is huge. And then last but not least is the advancements in the features and functionality. Having been in the finance area for my entire career, I know from personal experience working on so many software systems over my many, many years that I had the thrill of waiting 12 to 18 months for a new version to come out or enhancement, and often waiting even longer than that because that feature didn't get in the software. In the cloud environment, rapid enhancements is a given, and they come out as a general rule 90 days every quarter, every trimester. And they are real substantive features and functionality that anyone using the software can use. So there are so many advantages to cloud. And anytime we do a total cost of ownership analysis, 9 times out of 10, it is more cost effective to be within a cloud environment for your software back office solutions than not. And so we really strongly recommend that organizations look at this. So when I talk about cloud computing, it really is about digitalization. And you probably heard that word and wondered to yourself, what is this digitalization that everybody is talking about? But basically what it is it is all that functionality within a cloud solution that provides the streamlining of operations, the connectivity, the collaboration, and the visibility, accessibility, ease of use for your staff and for any of your constituents, whether they be senior leadership that goes in and wants information once a month, whether it is board members, whether it is funders, contributors. All of this is wrapped around this entire term, digitalization. It really is huge. It is the streamlining of your processes. It is the visibility to information real time. It is about analytics and being able to get business intelligence out of the information that is within your system. It is about streamlining your processes so that your team are not working on duplicative work or effort. We're working outside of a system in another standalone Access database or Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is. It is also about empowering your team members, your employees and staff, because getting them out of that redundant type of work and letting them do work that is more thought-based versus repetitive is huge. And the ability for them to have visibility to information that they need to do their job and be able to get it themselves without being dependent on others. All of these are areas that are hugely important when we, think about cloud computing and what it's providing to your organization. So if you're talking about any kind of software in the cloud or even not in the cloud, integration is hugely important. And so I would really be remiss if I was to talk about software and not talk about the importance of integration. It is hugely important because every organization has many systems that your organization is dependent on. ERP, of course, I have that front and center. Accountant, to me, it's the hub of the wheel, if you will, when it comes to back office systems. But it has to talk and connect with all other types of information, whether it's health record information, cases, program delivery, meals delivered, whatever is the core of what your organization does. There are systems supporting that work, and those systems have to integrate with each other. So this is just a very simple, high-level touch of programs as an example that JMT's clients work with. Your list can be far beyond this, all different names, but the key is we operate at JMT under what I call the best of breed philosophy. And basically, that is built around the belief that one system does not provide all answers or solutions. So it may say it does, and especially in the cloud environment, these products are built on platforms and they can be built very, very wide in terms of the functionality they have. But often what happens is they're built wide, but they're not built deep. And so the functionality that they have for what you really might need for your organization might not be there because the depth is not there. And so when you're thinking about technology and cloud computing as essential for your organization, you want to look at the solutions that are out there, and you want to make sure that they really do meet what it is that your organization needs. You have to do your homework. You have to be very specific. I've been through lots of software demos. I evaluate software solutions every month. Organizations, firms, publishers come to JMT and ask us to look at their solutions and consider them. And I'm, a very hard taskmaster about it, because you have to make sure that the software is built to be able to allow you to do what you need to do. It has to have that functionality and, ability. Now, when I think about, cloud computing, the big reason all of everything that I've shared is so important is basically around what I view as the real-time visibility and accountability. You cannot have that if you have systems that are clunky in connecting with each other. So when I talk about integration, I'm actually talking about real-time, bidirectional, synchronous integration. I'm not talking about export a file and then work on that file, get it into Excel, fix it up, and then import it into your other solution. And so that's what, when I talk about integration, that's part of what I look at it as part of a decision point. And the reason why this is very important, as I said, is because of visibility and accountability. And visibility and accountability comes with what I call continuous accounting. And now this is another area that I have definitely gotten beaten over in the past. And I first started talking about continuous accounting and eliminating the close. I think it was probably about 6 years ago. And I was on a panel, and it was a debate structure. And it was entitled Finance in 2025. And so, this was back in, do the math, 2012, I think it was, 2014. And so we were thinking ahead 10 plus years. I was on the platform of what accounting would look like, specifically eliminating the close and doing a continuous accounting. And my debating partner was on the other side of that. Now, as I've shared, I'm an accountant, so I had to, just like being back in school, I had to go in and do my homework to figure out how do I, debate this position when my hardcore accountant internal self was going, absolutely not. But interestingly enough, as often happens when you are forced into a situation, especially if anybody's done a debating and you have to take the other side, you have an entirely new perspective on, what you're looking at. So interestingly enough, continuous accounting is, once again, being talked about more and more. And it is hugely, hugely important. We actually do it at my company. We do not have hard closes. We automate everything we possibly can. And we do analysis, reconciliations, things like that on a daily basis. So, for example, bank reconciliations are done daily. Now, most organizations, you're going out to your bank online and you're, looking at your bank balances at a minimum, maybe you're also downloading the activity. And so now you go in and you actually download electronically the transactions, update, and you have up to the minute reconciliations of your bank accounts within your financial management system. Same thing with other reconciliations such as AR or AP or any of your balance sheet account reconciliations. Having them done concurrently rather than that pressure at the end of the month, that is all part of continuous accounting. Recurring journal entries, they're put into the system for the whole year, and then adjustments are made if needed. But at any time, you can go and bring up on a dashboard and see where your organization is and get visibility to that and use that information for projecting forward. And so this concept of continuous accounting is hugely important. It's hugely valuable. If you're not currently doing it, I would recommend you start. But cloud computing empowers all of this. And this is going to be more and more of the norm, and it will be beneficial for your organization as well as for your team to be able to do this. So my second essential is AI, machine learning. Now, I can appreciate that this is a little bit scary in many ways, but at the same time, we're living with it every day in our normal lives. If you have Alexa or Google Nest, Siri, you're living and using these with, whether you know it or not. And these are coming into applications more and more. All your shopping, you're seeing that in shopping. And in business, it's coming, and it's very much coming in the financial management back office area. So the key thing here, going along with what I talked about before, continuous accounting, is a continuous monitoring of the activities of the organization. Hugely important, and the ability to detect potential issues based on prior transactions, also very important. Security, we mentioned that previously, hugely important, to make recommendations, to help your team as they're actually doing their entry. These are all very important areas, and I've got a great example of some things. So talking about the continuous monitoring of activities, imagine if your system was able to review your accounting transactions as they were happening versus you at the end of the month, reviewing the general ledger activity, or perhaps signing off on journal entries manually, or getting a financial statement and looking at a number and saying, that looks high, then going to the ledger. Imagine if those activities could be automated. You don't have to imagine this functionality is being developed and is slowly rolling out in finance systems right now today. The continuous audit, I spoke about that. We used to be, the old way, what I call the old way. It was that rear view. It was after the fact, looking at data, comparing it to other data, doing reconciliations, and often items being discovered 30, 60, 90 days after they happened. And, how much trust do we actually have in the numbers? And that's the key thing here is, and I had to have a paradigm shift in my thinking personally. I didn't trust the numbers that were happening previously, hence why all of the reconciliations and the delay in closing to make sure that everything was perfect, that I could have confidence. But at the end of the day, I didn't have confidence and things still got found. And so this is shifting to this real-time visibility with cloud computing and with AI being a checkpoint to look at, what is happening with this data, this at an entry by entry basis, real time and continuous. These are huge time savers and trust builders. So, the continuous audit, I've talked about that a bit. It's a different type of mindset to look at your accounting processes. And instead of looking at them from what's my month-end close process, have I gone through my month-end close process, rather looking at them from every day, I want to have my systems, data, and information be correct and visible so that I can make decisions, and my team, my senior leadership, my program directors, my project managers can make the decisions they need to make because they have real-time visibility to the activities happening within their area of control. It is hugely, hugely important. And so with AI, the continuous accounting actually becomes a continuous audit. And AI looks at entries and says, this value seems very high compared to activity entered previously. Or you have this program matched with this funding source. Is this actually correct? There are all different areas, and the intelligence continues to improve as the system gets more and more data and understands how the user is using the system. And it is extremely powerful. And the key thing here is it doesn't change any data. It's simply saving you time and also providing visibility for you to then be able to make whatever decisions you need to make. AI should be thought of as decision support when we're talking about this. And here's just an example of, if there was an unusual combination in coding of a receipt that went through or any other journal entry. AI would then look at it and simply say, are you sure there's never been an entry like this, as an example? And here again, it will look, and this is the predictive nature of it, AI in the systems today is going to, and is providing the ability to start looking at activity ahead of time and calling out areas that you should be looking at. So it really does provide an ability to be able to have decision support in advance versus waiting for reports to happen. So I thought it would be helpful at a most basic level if I shared a sample scenario of AI. Now, I've been talking up to this point about, data entry as an example. But here in this scenario, I'm actually talking about W-4s. So what typically happens with our clients, as an example, is they will contact us, email, and they'll ask for our W-4 form. And then we may have sent it to them, and they reach out to us again because they don't have it. they can't find it, whatever. And this is all maintained manually. They have a log, and it just is the list of the vendors that they don't have a W-4 for, and the staff member calls, sends us an email, and they keep an eye out because they let us know we're not going to make any payments to you without the W-4. I'm assuming some of this process is familiar to many of you that are have joined us today. Well, in AI environment, that goes away. Imagine that. Your staff does not have to have a manual log. Your staff member does not have to track, okay, who sent me something? Who do I need to reach out to? Who do I need to reach out to a second time? Am I holding payments? All of that goes away. And now the system is taking care of all of those very simple but very time-consuming tasks for your team. That is an example of artificial intelligence in a process versus a entry. And that's just the simplest example. I mean, if you think about your processes around cash receipts, around vendor management, around donor management, anything, these are areas where AI comes into place and workflows can be created to use the system to manage through all of it. So it is extremely powerful. It is the future. It is coming. The current solutions that are out there, they've already, cloud solutions, they've already started to build out more and more of this. And there are also add-on, just like you think about payroll, the third-party solution, finance, a third-party solution, right? There are independent standalone third-party solutions for AI that will often work with your current finance system or your case management system. Okay, analytics, hugely important. I think probably most people are familiar with the idea of, the importance of data. Data is all powerful, and it is absolutely true. The challenge that we have is that the data we collect, if we're collecting it, often is only captured periodically at a specific moment in time. It's a snapshot kind of thing. Often it's financial, of course, data, but it is not, or that's what we call quantify, qualify, qualitative, data. And how can you assess the success of your mission or your KPIs? It's not just financial data that you're relying on. And this is especially when you think about your programs, your projects, you have outcomes that you are anticipating to achieve. And too often, all of this is sitting in separate systems, often with multiple systems across your organization. So first is, in our cloud computing environment, more and more of the solutions are now capturing both qualitative and quantitative data and putting it side by side and analyzing it to provide data that you can make decisions from. And so this is what predictive analytics is all about. It is about the capturing of the information real time, because we have that integration that I talked about at the very beginning. Information coming through real time, side by side, sitting with the dollars, being able to look at that in detail. All of these KPIs that you determine, the impacts that your organization might be having, The very things often that you are putting in an annual report, as an example, these things should be visible to you every day, and can be with cloud computing systems today, as well as the predictive analytics functionality that, along with AI, is building out more and more. And then, of course, the ability for users to be able to get to it in a platform that is easy for them to understand and use without them jumping through hoops, and very much end user focused. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, but hugely important. We had one organization that had shared with us, a survey that had been done with a number of organizations that they were a part of. And using predictive analytics and how they felt, this group, this association, what a change it provided to the organization, both on a tactical day-to-day operational level, but also on a strategic level. And they're real results. They really do happen. And the key to this is changing our mindset. When we think about essential technologies, we have to get to the mindset of it is not business as usual. Technology has continued to move forward and is providing more and more. And finance departments and others across organizations need to look at technology and not as something that is a burden that they have to bring in, but as something that can raise their organization up. And a lot of different, when you look at predictive analytics especially, the key thing here is visibility. Visibility to information rises up. Every program, everything in an organization. But you have to have that visibility, you have to have that accountability. And so there's all different ways to do it. This is an example of a dashboard, and here again, the key thing with these couple of examples I'm going to show you is they are not what we consider the typical finance view. They are really about, what is going to resonate with the reader. There's loads of information across your organization. Often much of it, as I mentioned earlier, is kept by individuals. And so how do you move this information that is kept over here on the side into your system of record for the organization so that it can be collaborated upon, and predictive analytics and visibility to it can happen at the level that an organization needs in the format that they need it in. So before we finish, I want to talk about resources necessary, because it would be really remiss of me to talk about all this great thing and then not talk about, okay, what does it take when you think about this? So, the big thing I want to talk about quickly is an innovation mindset, and that's hard. As I mentioned a few times, accountant, older, been doing this a long time, and it's really hard to embrace the concept, especially when you think about continuous close or, daily activities versus a month-end close. So you really got to have an innovation mindset and lead your organization, your team, your leadership to that. It is necessary to have, disruption is necessary in order to have innovation. And that's really hard, but it is a fact. and so important. It's hard to embrace it, but it's so important. You have to look at your organization as a whole. You can start with one particular department, but the goal always should be the organization as a whole. And so thinking about your technology strategy and these essential technologies, you could start with baby steps, but you want to think about the full holistic organization. And that's that clear vision. We really want to, think about here again, for your whole organization, what is the clear vision for your organization? And influence. I am a huge proponent of that leadership style of influence versus control. I really want to empower team members and others I work with to be able to embrace new things, even when they're scary. And so this is all part of this. You have to foster this within your organization. And you really have to understand, and this is that banner at the end, your systems, if they're older systems, what I call legacy, they are costing your organization every day. You don't realize it, but they are. And it's easy and understandable that you don't realize it, but it exists. And so it's really important to understand that part. So challenges, you really need to, as part of this innovation, you need to have an ongoing, exercise, if you will, about how technology might support your organization. So you have your technology plan, and you start with thinking about all the different systems your organization uses. And the odds are you're going to think immediately about the big ones. But then if you go and you talk to individuals, you're probably going to find that there are a number of other systems that are being used by individuals at an individual level that, 3 different individuals are using the same thing, but a little bit differently, and you don't realize it. You need to, as I mentioned earlier, really embrace adopting new technology and processes. And technology, cloud computing, AI, predictive analytics, all of them, they are going to inform new processes. You can't have new technology without new processes, so you have to be embracing that. And then your team, your staff, hugely important. You have to really have a clear understanding of, what your team can do, as well as what they're willing to do. Nothing makes it harder to, move into new technologies if your team is not on board with it. It becomes a very painful process if your team members are not on board with it. So in closing, I don't leave enough time for just a few questions. In closing, I really want to reiterate that technology really does support innovation. When it's that forest versus the trees. When your brain and your team's brain are consumed at, the tree level, you can't see the forest. It absolutely will help with improved mission delivery. But here again, you have to understand your metrics. What is your mission, delivery KPIs, if you will, and how are they being managed and monitored and captured right now? It has to be part of it. And you will be able to expand services because automation provides that ability. It frees up that time. So in closing, that is it. I want to thank you. And if we have any questions, now is a good time.
Thank you, Jackie. That was an awesome presentation. I loved hearing you describe eliminating the close with continuous accounting. And there's a couple of questions follow on in that. But first of all, let me say that everybody will get a copy of the presentation. They're going to email that out to everyone. We had a couple questions about that. There were a couple of questions asking what technology is doing the AI continuous analysis in the examples or the continuous close?
Sure. So the solution which I actually use some of the scorecard slides that is Sage Intacct. They actually have started with that. In addition to them, and that's an ERP finance software, cloud financial management. In addition to that, as I mentioned before, there are some independent startup firms that are offering it on existing applications. So if you query, AI or artificial intelligence, some of those providers will come up.
Perfect. And I would assume that you would be happy to answer any questions directly from customers.
Absolutely. Anytime anybody, whether you're a customer or not, absolutely. If you have any questions on anything, I'm more than happy. You can email me on the information website.
Perfect. And there's a follow-on question. The AI with Sage Intacct, is that built in or a plug-in?
It is actually built in as part of the system core.
Great. Here's a question. As someone in the nonprofit finance technology industry, what is the one piece of advice you offer to nonprofits as they're looking to enter the cloud space?
Probably the most important piece is, as I mentioned earlier, there's the partly cloudy environment versus the true SaaS. And the partly cloudy is the work in progress group. And so I would caution organizations, they're going to be less expensive because they're trying to break into the market, they're brand new. So I would caution organizations to just be careful on the newer cloud versions of legacy software.
Perfect. And that kind of leads into one last question. How do you evaluate nonprofit finance solutions to ensure they are current or ahead of the trends?
So there I would look at their development, roadmap, both what they've done over the last 5 to 10 years, as well as what they have on the roadmap for going forward. The backward looking, what have you done, is hugely important because anybody can say what they're doing going forward, but the proof is what have they actually done. And so, I look at that. The other piece is reporting is hugely important. And the functionality that they're adding to the software, here again, looking what have they added in the last 5, 10 years, especially to your vertical. So if you're a nonprofit, for example, what have they done in terms of building the product for nonprofits? Hugely important. That's what we look for.
Great, thank you. And we've had one more question come in, and you're being asked, are you saying that QuickBooks is a legacy software?
Okay, so QuickBooks is a great example of a application that started building out their cloud version early on. So QuickBooks Online is a cloud product. So if you're on the cloud version, then you're in a good application as far as cloud. You're not partly cloudy. If you're on what we call on-prem legacy version where it's, installed locally, then, you're on a different version. Now, all that said, QuickBooks is a, good product. The key thing on QuickBooks, and what I always tell organizations, here's an indicator you're starting to outgrow QuickBooks. If you're doing your reporting on nonprofits, as we work with, to funders for, the classes of funding restricted, with donor restriction, without donor restriction, any of that, if you're doing that in Excel and you're having to do it more and more, because your organization may be growing or expanding, you're going to hit the ceiling where you need to look at automating that process. Remember, everything you do, that manual stuff is eating up your time.
Great, thank you. And that is it for our questions today. What a great presentation. Thank you again for coming onto our stage and presenting your knowledge and sharing it with the audience. And everybody out there, thank you so much for attending. And that is going to conclude our webinar for today. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.